You're listening to Season 5 of Three Angry Giant Fans and a Jet Fan podcast with your hosts Scott, Giant Mike, Cardone, and Angry Jets fan Novak. Get us free on Buzzsprout, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to check out our new website, angryfootballfans.com. We also have a new sponsor for Season 5, the Carolina Beer Temple in Matthews, North Carolina. Let's go Giants, go Jets, and get ready to have some fun.
Practice at the Quest Diagnostics Training Center, and then the preseason game in the books, and the Giants finish it off with a 14-3 win over the Lions.
So that was a recap of the Giants winning the preseason game against the Lions to go to 1-0 in meaningless games this year. So the Giants have won the first meaningless contest they could possibly have played in. We'll get into some of the previews of the games this week. We are the Three Angry Giant Fans, host Scott, Giant Mike, and Jet fan Novak. And Cardone is absent this week. He likes to take a week off during preseason, but we have special guest John Pierce. Welcome to the pod.
Welcome,
Thanks,
John.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for the invite.
Big shoes to fill. These episodes without Cardone, we sometimes don't have a lot of fervor, so we gotta. You got to replace that level of fervor.
You're going to fill the void.
You need to drop a lot of F-bombs and bring a lot of energy.
I'm a good void filler. So we're set.
So, John and I met years ago on Big Blue Interactive, and then we actually played baseball together for several years in an adult league. So John was our catcher. I said this to Novak earlier. I said, you went to school in Pennsylvania. You were a quarterback, I think. And I always want to say Slippery Rock, but it wasn't Slippery Rock, was it?
No, it was actually, there's two schools, Scott. It was Ursinus College and Widener University.
Widener.
Oh, wow.
Ursinus. Yeah. Okay.
I'm actually headed to Ursinus on Sunday.
No kidding.
I'll be spending 3 days on campus next week. Yep.
Nice. I had some very good memories at Ursinus. I played baseball and football there. Let me tell you, it hasn't changed a whole bunch. I mean, I've been back a couple times, and really cool school. And I don't know if you know this, but they used to have a tree in the end zone of their football field. In the back corner of the end zone, they used to have a tree there. And when I was going there, this is in the early 80s. This is like 86, 87. They had to replant the tree because the original tree was struck by lightning. They took the wood from the tree and sculpted it into this grizzly bear that's in the athletic dorm, the athletic center where the players and stuff dress. Yeah.
So was a tree inside the actual stadium?
No, it was in the back corner. Yeah, it was in the back corner though. But that was famous for that. So.
Yeah, awesome. So we'll give a shout out here to one of a new state that we haven't called out before. So hello, Lincoln, Rhode Island. So we're in Rhode Island, population 22,529. It's a suburb of Providence, and it's named in honor of, you could probably guess it, Abe Lincoln. So it was a mill town, a thriving mill town in the 1800s, and it's home of the Twin River Lake Lincoln Casino and Resort. So it used to be a horse track called Lincoln Park, which their music rocked.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the map here. That's like a suburb of Pawtucket.
Well, could it be Pawtucket's in Massachusetts, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Well, Pawtucket looks like it's in both states there.
Yeah, right on the border must be.
Yeah.
We also had a listener from Turkey, which I think the more politically correct term is now Turkey, which I don't understand where that came from. I don't think they wanted to be associated with the bird anymore. They got a little bit upset that they were associated with like Thanksgiving dinner, so they wanted to be called Turkey.
They should have gone back to Constantinople. Turkey A still reminds me of Turkey. It's not like adding the A on the end changed my thought.
So first preseason game, Giants played the Lions. Lions coming off a great season last year. Neither team played their starters. DeVito looked good. Drew Lock was injured. Our linebacker Deontay Johnson turned his ankle and he was injured and he might be out a few weeks. Other than that, Eric Gray had a very good game, 2 touchdowns. Boring game. I mean, it was 17-3 or whatever. Not a lot of points scored. Not a lot to really break down in that, other than the backup offensive line looked pretty good. We look like we have some depth on the offensive line. It looks like if we needed Locke not to play, that DeVito could actually step in again. But not much to learn from preseason, guys.
Well, I'll tell you what. It's if I may. What was interesting to me is that we actually looked competent from a backup perspective. I mean, if you look at past years, at least the past few years, right, with all the coaches and things like that, we have looked really shitty as far as depth goes as a team. And I thought we took a big step forward, not only with the game, Scott, but I think with the joint practices that they have with the Lions. Everything I was reading was they were toe to toe, and they basically held their own and won a lot of battles. So it's refreshing in my opinion to see some of the things that are I think gonna push this team a little forward. So it was some good things to see.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. I mean, you mentioned it there, Scott, but the backup offensive line was very impressive to me. And I know they were mostly against backups, but still, as John mentioned, in past years, I mean, you could see the difference in our depth between the other teams we were playing sometimes. And, we, like John said, we hung in there toe to toe. I heard the same things about the joint practices. Don't love that. I don't know which I like less, joint practices or preseason games. I don't know, but I know they're a necessary evil. But yeah, all in all, pretty encouraging. Drew Lock, even before he got hurt, looked terribly ineffective. However, so that was I don't know if DeVito doesn't just win that backup job outright. From some of the other things I've heard about the talk about DeVito looking really good in camp.
Yeah. It's interesting because, it is just a preseason game. And from what I've heard, and you were talking about joint practices, Mike, the coaches and the staff have put in the last several years much more credence into the joint practices. They actually feel like they get more out of that because it doesn't have the specter of a lot of people watching it. They can put some wrinkles in there that the other team's not necessarily going to take advantage of, because a lot of times they're doing these practices with either an AFC team or they're doing it with a non-divisional rival. So you're able to get some work in there that's pretty good. I think the Giants are going to go up against the Ravens in terms of practice in a couple of weeks. I know the Panthers and the Jets have been going at it here. So you're gonna see those kind of like interconference battles where you could work on a lot more things. And then the preseason game happens, and a lot of times these coaches are just on autopilot.
Panthers fielding a team this year, Scott? I wasn't sure. I mean, I was just not to throw shade in my former city where I lived in, but yeah, I just wanted to make sure they were still okay. Yeah.
I honestly, going into this season, John, I can't see the Panthers being more than a 4-win team. I just don't see it.
Nope.
And if it's one of those things that actually comes true, it's one of the rare times that you've actually seen a team be that bad and stay that bad. Like I remember the Colts when they went 0-16 or whatever. I don't remember them ever thinking, the Colts are going to be so shitty this year, they're not going to win a game or 2 games or 3 games. It's just one of those things that sort of organically happens. But with the Panthers, I don't see a path forward. And honestly, I think we're going to start hearing rumblings mid-season that Bryce Young's a bust.
No, there's no doubt. I mean, even if you think about the 0-16 Lions, the Joey Harrington year, I remember thinking they're not that bad. They were kept it close in every game, and the Panthers are not trying to lose on purpose like a bunch of teams have done. I mean, they really want to win, but I agree with you, Scott. I think the over under on them should be 3.5. I think it's 5.5. It should be 3.5, and if it is 5.5, you bet the under, no doubt.
But, and they're not a likable team either. There's not a bunch of players on there that you would, and the owner is the biggest ass of them all, right? I mean. My goodness, what he's done to that team, or what he was trying to do to that team, with the whole stadium deal and everything. And Scott, I know it's near and dear to your heart, trying to move down to Fort Mill or whatever, I think. But to me, it's just, it's a disaster from the top down. From what I can see, the only saving grace
Sir Per.
that I see, and I'll get, yeah, exactly. The only saving grace is from what I see, and is the GM. Honestly, if he can pan out like other former players have, then there may be a path forward for that. But I was happy to take Brian Burns off their hands. I mean, really happy to do that for them. So
yeah, I did think that was interesting in the Hard Knocks segment when they were showing Shane negotiate with Dan on Brian Burns, and people forget the Panthers actually had an offer for 2 first rounders from I believe it was the Rams last year, and they didn't take it. And then the Giants get him for not even close to a first rounder. And you're saying to yourself, how do you go from getting 2 first rounders to not getting hardly anything at all for a guy who's going to be a critical part of this defense if he stays healthy, I believe.
Yeah, I loved in Hard Knocks. One of my favorite parts of the whole thing was Shane getting like annoyed that Morgan was asking for that extra 7. He's like, come on, man. We're going to hold this up over a 7. I need players too. He's like,
not to keep on the Hard Knocks thing, but I enjoyed every single episode, not only because it was because of the Giants, but I think it was really well done in the fact that you don't really get to see that all the time, right? In the regular Hard Knocks, you see training camp and you see guys getting cut and you see some of the backstory there, but we got to really and Giants fans are pissed about this, screw them. I mean, you got a really good inside look of some of the inner workings of Giants management, scouts, everything, and I thought it was well put together. It moved well. It was great. If you're a Giants fan, I mean, it was like manna from heaven sitting and watching that even before training camp started.
And the Giants don't have to be on Hard Knocks now for like the next several decades, probably.
Yeah, I was ready to hate it and hate the fact that they were on it. And I did hate the fact when I heard they were on it, but like John, I enjoyed every minute of it, and everything you said is spot on. I mean, I absolutely love seeing that side of the business, which you don't get to see very often. And for all the Giants fans, Mara's screwing everything up, and Mara's this and Mara's that. Just he pops in the room and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna be sick. I got to get out of here." Like he's not like a puppet master pulling the strings of the whole thing. He's in there. Oh, you do what you got to do.
I talked about this last week. How I've been going through the podcast with the top 100 Giants, and they had Joe Morris on the other day as one of the guys announcing the team. And what struck me is when they were talking about Wellington Mara, and they said, what stood out to you with Wellington Mara? And he said Wellington Mara would come in the game. He would come in the locker room after every game, win or lose, and shake everyone's hand and tell them, "Good job. Thank you. Good job. Thank you." And he said that you don't understand as a player how much that meant that the owner took time out of his day to just thank everyone for being there. And how much of a family it was. And the true appreciation I'm getting from listening to the top 100 players is that everyone to a man says they repeat that mantra, once a Giant, always a Giant. And it's given me a lot. Like I said last week, I'm sort of re-energized this season. And I think part of it's just from listening to past players, guys I looked up to, talking about this organization and how great it is. It's refreshing.
Yeah, great.
So Novak, we had a game between the Jets and Redskins also. Want to give us the lowdown on what happened there? I know that Redskins have a highly touted quarterback and he looked decent, but the Jets had some things up their sleeve too.
Yeah. I got to. What do you want to break this preseason game of the Jets and Commanders? What do you want to give me? 15 minutes? That sound about right? No. Look, not much to really care about on this game. A couple things that I took from it. Number one is the Jets are going to have a great 1-2 combo in the backfield with Breece Hall and this Braylon Allen, this kid out of Wisconsin, who's like this is going to remind me of what was it? Brandon Jacobs and Ahmad Bradshaw?
Bradshaw.
Yeah. What did they call themselves? Didn't they have like a Thunder and Ice?
I think Thunder and Lightning was Thunder and Lightning. Tiki and Dane were the original Thunder and Lightning, but
But yeah, but they're going to have that kind of a combo, which I'm really excited about. So that was great. And then, we talked about this last year when we were like, why can't we have backup quarterbacks? I can't throw a forward pass. And it looks like this kid Martinez has a little something. And I remember watching him at Kansas State and thinking, well, this guy looks like he can play. Why isn't he in the NFL? And yet Nathan Peterman still has a job. So I think that, we have Jordan Travis. I think he's going to get stashed away for the year because of his injury. This kid might make the team. He looked pretty good. I don't know how much to put into it, but that's what I took from there. And then, of course, all you do is watch for, guys that are on the cut line and see if they're worth anything. And I didn't get a whole lot out of it, to be honest.
The Hassan Reddick holdout. So this guy gets traded to the Jets. He's showed up one day at the facility and that's it since he's been there, and now he wants a trade.
Yeah, I can go a lot of different ways with this one. I don't know what happened here. Because it's the Jets, I think everyone just assumes that the Jets fucked this up, right? Because they do everything they touch, they screw up. But I really think in this case, look, Joe Douglas has not been a great GM when it comes to drafting, with the exception of Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Jermaine Johnson, that whole crew, right? That was a great draft. But, he's also drafted Zach Wilson, Mekhi Becton. This Will McDonald is a little iffy. But when it comes to trades and dealing with other GMs, I would say Joe Douglas is at the top of the league. Don't forget, he traded Jamal Adams for 2 number 1 picks. That waste of a player in Sam Darnold for a 3rd rounder. This guy, a backup tight end for a 4th rounder. I mean, he's very good at trades and dealing on that side of the business. I don't think he went into this thing, blindsided by the fact that Hassan Reddick wanted to. I think Reddick lied, and I think he said, I'll come play, and then he changed his mind, and this guy is screwing us now. But the Jets, to their credit, are holding their ground because they have to. Because next year they're going to have Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Jermaine Johnson. All these guys are coming up on their end of their rookie deals. So they have got to – they're not going to go give this guy all this money. He hasn't played a snap in the preseason. So we'll see what happens. I like what they're actually doing here. I give a lot of credit to this team.
That would be unprecedented, though, if a guy gets traded to a team, never actually plays for that team, demands a trade, and gets traded from them. That would be the Jetsiest thing
only
to do,
the Jets, right? Again, only the Jets. I mean, it could happen.
Very Jetsy.
Jesus.
That's like hiring a coach who coaches for 2 days or.
All right, keep it coming.
Yeah, no, I got it.
You just talked about your glorious the giant, always a giant, once a giant. Now you're gonna shit kick the Jets.
Well, we can say once a Jet, always a Jet, and would mean the same thing, only the opposite.
You can't do that because it sounds like you're auditioning for West Side Story if you do that. When you're a Jet, you're a Jet.
Scott, in all seriousness,
did we just go into show tunes, by the way? Not to cut you off there, Job. We actually went into show tunes. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so Scott, Hackett and Aaron Rodgers, how they getting along? Sweet music, or what's the story?
As long as the dick likes him, that's all that matters, apparently. So I mean, yeah, they get along great. So who cares? I mean, yeah, but he's probably the worst offensive coordinator in decades. But he's really not the offensive coordinator. It's Rodgers. I think everyone knows it. So as long as they're happy, as long as Rodgers is happy, that's all I care about.
Well, I think I read where Hackett was worried about Rodgers not getting his booster yet. So I'm not sure what, there may be a little bit of, some of that, but we'll be all right.
It doesn't end. I mean, it just with this guy.
That little segment there with Scott bringing up Thunder and Lightning, I thought of a great trivia question. So do you guys remember Thunder and Lightning? And Scott was correct. It was Dane and Tiki. Does anyone remember who the Cloud was? Do you remember Madden? If these guys are Thunder and Lightning, then this guy's the Cloud.
Remember on the Giants?
That? Yeah.
Was it Derek Ward?
No.
Oh, it wasn't Derek Ward. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because wasn't it Earth, Wind, and Fire?
It might have been Earth, Wind, and Fire. You might be right.
The Cloud was Greg Camella.
Yeah.
The fullback. You can't have thunder or lightning without the Cloud.
John used to have a shirt with the rhino on it.
The Hynoski.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I had Henry Hynoski. I had a shirt. In fact, I have a picture with Scott and I It said rhinoceros across the front. I mean, it was one of the best shirts. I wish I could find that thing. It was great. Yep.
Jen, I got one from 80, like what? This would have been 1990 with Hampton. I can't believe I still fit into it. So, on the Giants news, Evan Neal came off PUP. It'll be interesting to see how they work him back in. Does he take the starting tackle position, or is Luminor going to keep that? It'll be interesting to see. Neighbors injured his ankle. Doesn't seem to be too serious, but it'll be interesting to see on that front too. Will Neighbors finish the preseason without a catch because he didn't get one in the first game, and he may be held out now out of precaution. Tyrone Tracy had a really big scare. He went down on a non-contact injury. They put an air cast on him and carted him off. But apparently, from a lot of the reports today, it's just a low ankle sprain, a grade 2 one. So that's a lot better news than what we thought. However, for another guy who could have been a Giant, JJ McCarthy, his season's done in Minnesota. Yeah, he has a torn meniscus, had to have surgery, and they're saying his season's over with.
Yeah, that's being a Michigan fan, I was looking forward to watching him, and I wanted to beat the Jesus out of him week 1 for sure. But
we get Darnold now.
Yeah, he should have stayed in Michigan for his senior year and handed the ball off for another fall, I guess.
This guy is headed for bust. I'm telling you. I don't see it.
I don't
really
argue.
Don't.
I'm kind of got mixed feelings about. I mean, I was really intrigued with what he did at Michigan. I mean, the guy was a winner, right? I mean, you can't deny it.
Absolutely.
Here's the thing that I think, this may be sort of a blessing in disguise. If you look at the history of quarterbacks coming in their first year, those that have sat, and you can kind of name a list. Aaron Rodgers is a perfect example, right? He sat for a year or two and really kind of let everything come to him, did a lot of studying, did a lot of reps and all that stuff. And now he's arguably a Hall of Fame quarterback, right? Aaron Rodgers is one example, right? There's lots of other examples. Mahomes is another, right?
Yep.
So I think the kid's smart enough, and I think the kid showed enough skills, at least in limited time that I saw him in preseason. Right. Again, it's a preseason game. You're playing against backups. The limited time I saw him, he looked like he didn't look like he didn't belong. Right. So we'll just have to see. I mean, I kind of felt bad for the kid. I was looking forward to beating the shit out of him in the first week. So, but we'll see. I think in hindsight, I don't think it'll be a bust, but I do think that this may help him with the mental reps and everything that he's going through.
The Giants do have a good history against Sam Darnold, though. So when he was with Panthers, when he's with the the Jets, other teams, so it's like, let's bring him out there.
I'll take it. Yep.
Did you hear what you just said?
What?
They have a good history against Sam Darnold. Who has a bad history against Sam Darnold? I mean, it's not like you're, come on, Scott.
Which team out there does Sam Darnold own?
It's like saying Jets have a great history against Nathan Peterman. Let me tell you.
Nathan Peterman's now come up twice, and I still want to know how this guy has a job in the NFL.
Why don't every time I hear Nathan Peterman, I think of Seinfeld with Jay Peterman. I swear, every time I hear that name.
See, he is filling in for Cardone, doing the Seinfeld
references.
Seinfeld
reference.
Elaine, down in Burma, Myanmar. So Giants have the Texans this week. Jets have the Panthers. So big question here, is Novak going to the game? It's in Carolina.
Still undecided. Like I might. I've got some family things going on this weekend, but I didn't go last year, and they were here. I would like to go. I could probably get in for a couple bucks at this point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how poor the preseason. I mean, really think about that. I'm a rabid Jets fan. They're never here. They're here for preseason. I'm like, maybe I'll go. But what am I going to do? It's so boring. I don't know.
We complained about the preseason being cut down to 4 or 3 games from 4, and eventually probably go down to 2 if they go to an 18-game schedule. I just don't watch the preseason.
No,
Outside of catching what the Giants have done, I will not sit there and watch, like, let's say the Rams versus the Chargers or something. I'm not watching that.
No, and I heard a really good idea today. Someone said for preseason, why just go with a running clock?
That'd be a good idea,
right?
I actually like that idea. I mean, it just, it really forces you from a time management perspective to make sure that you're getting the guys in that you want to see, right?
Yep.
I mean, and it's continuous, keeps the fans engaged.
Yep.
And it's not the long, laborious. I mean, so my wife is quick story. My wife's a huge Miami Dolphins fan. So I was watching the Dolphins against the Falcons because they were on here. And literally at the end of the game, because my wife had a bet with a Falcons fan, I was forced to sit and watch that whole game, and the Falcons blow it at the end like 3 times trying to go into the end zone. So I hear you. Running clock, it would have been over an hour ago, and here I am watching a meaningless preseason game because my wife made a bet. I'm like, yeah, I agree 100%.
Betting on preseason, that's sort of degenerate behavior.
Yeah.
It's a mutual friend of ours called up and said, okay, I'll bet you a bottle of your favorite whatever that the Falcons beat. And he knew the point spread. That's degenerate, right? It was a 2.5 point spread. The Falcons were getting 2.5. And I'm like, the point spread? That's awful.
So I have a poker game on Thursdays, and I was there last Thursday while the Giants were playing, and we were in North Carolina, so you can bet on DraftKings. And one of the guys there is like, all right, I think I'm going to take the over in the Giants-Lions game. I'm like, I'd take the under, but it's preseason. You don't know what's going to happen. And he's like, oh, I'm taking the over. There's going to be a lot of scoring in this game. He got fucked. It was 17-3. Yeah. But it's like, who's betting on fucking preseason and like a betting app,
Not only who's betting, who's setting lines for those?
That's exactly
How
right.
do you even know? That's crazy. Yeah, that's.
So, do you guys see anything around the league this week? Other than the Miami betting that's going on and stuff like that. I mean, John, down in Atlanta, you got Penix now. Penix apparently looked pretty sharp, but it doesn't. Here's what I don't get about Penix. First off, I don't know why the Falcons drafted him. But second off, there are a lot of Giant fans who are like, we should have had Penix. The dude's a left-hander. You got Evan Neal protecting your blind side if he's a left-hander. Why the hell would you want a left-hander on the Giant team right now?
I don't know.
That's a good point.
I was never really sold on Penix. I just, what really frightens me about him is the injury factor. I mean, he's been hurt an awful lot in his young career. And we're not talking about sprained ankle, hamstring. We're talking knees, shoulders, heads and toes, right? So I mean, it's that was the biggest worry for me, and the fact that he played in the Pac-12, right? Now defunct Pac-12, right? I didn't see a lot of him. I'll admit, I didn't see a lot of him, but what I did see was him in the national championship game get his ass kicked, and really looked uncomfortable when pressure was on him.
Where did Washington go this year, by the way? Are they in the Big Ten now?
Yes.
Yeah, they're in the Big Ten
now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he did. And then he unraveled in the second half of the national championship game. And, it's because he was under constant duress, and he got hurt at one point and stayed in the game. So I guess that shows a little bit of toughness, but he really came unwound like the end of the third quarter. It just got to him.
I didn't feel comfortable. Scott, I think you and I were talking. We were texting back and forth. We were looking at quarterbacks, and I think both of us said we wanted no part of Penix.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was one of the guys. I wanted no part of McCarthy, Penix, or Nix. Even if the Giants were to trade down, I wanted none of those guys. I was fine with Drake May. I actually liked Jaden Daniels too, until I saw the segment on Hard Knocks where he couldn't really read a progression. But other than that, I mean, I'm not even sold on Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams might be the next version of Justin Fields for the Bears, but we'll see. He did look decent in the preseason game, but Justin Fields was an MVP candidate as well as late as 4th week last year. So
out of that group, I wouldn't have hated Bo Nix. There's something about that guy that I like, and I don't know what it is. He's probably going to be a bust, especially if they push him to start, to John's point earlier, but there's something I like about that guy. I can't quite put my finger on it, but the other names you mentioned, Penix and McCarthy, I didn't want any part of that.
Penix and Nix to me too. I have a fundamental bias against players that are older coming out of college. Both those guys are older, just like Tyrone Tracy. I mean, if Tyrone Tracy was out for the season because of the injury that he just had, he would be turning 27 next year as a second-year player. And you start looking at Bo Nix and Penix. I think both those guys are 24 or 25. That's old for a starting, rookie. Now, are you going to get out of a quarterback maybe 13, 14 years out of a guy if he's great? Yeah. So if he hits, but I just don't like when they start old because it seems like it's taken 2-3 years off of them. I mean, if you look at Daniel Jones right now, Daniel Jones is what, 25 right now, 26?
Mm-hmm.
He's as young as those guys.
The other thing about Bo Nix is he absolutely sucked ass at Auburn, and they couldn't wait to get rid of him, right? And that's in the SEC. And so, Scott, I know you know a lot about the SEC and the ACC being in the South, right? Southern Fried Football, all that stuff. So he couldn't hang with the bigger conferences. Went to Oregon, did extraordinarily well, no doubt, right? But I think the level of competition dropped off for him a little bit.
Yeah,
no question. Yeah.
So, but like I said, I just can't keep that in the back of my mind. That and the age factor, as Scott and Mike said, just didn't really hit it for me.
I'm trying to ignore the fact, by the way, you're drinking out of a Georgia mug, but that's okay. So,
yeah, I know. It's kind of hard because Scott knows I'm from a blended family, so I have my stepson is looking to transfer into Georgia, which he's got a really good opportunity to do that, and my daughter is looking at different schools. Clemson is one of them, by the way. South Carolina is another. Georgia, Auburn. So, unfortunately, when you live in Georgia for the amount of time that I've lived in it now, it kind of just grows on you and everyone becomes a dog fan. So
if she's going to a South Carolina school, make sure she makes the right choice there.
I know. I told her, or actually I maybe not have told her, but I told a bunch of friends of mine that you have two kids that have gone or are still going to. I can't remember.
No, my daughter graduated from Clemson. Christopher's a senior this year, so he's graduates this year.
Okay, yeah. So
matter of fact, we move him back tomorrow. We're going to Clemson tomorrow to move him in.
Good deal. Good deal.
On news outside of football, but associated with football, we always talk about announcers on the show, and Sam Rosen is retiring after this season. Mm-hmm. And he used to do the Giants preseason games. Obviously he's the MSG guy, so he does Rangers. And I remember those games. If you remember watching on like WPIX or back in the day, like the Giants would come on at midnight, preseason games, or they'd come on the next day, Sunday morning at like 8 a.m, and I watched them. And Sam Rosen was always doing the preseason games, and he's been fantastic as a Rangers announcer. So, as he rides off into the sunset, it'll be interesting to see who replaces him. There's some rumors Kenny Albert might.
I would say Kenny Albert should be the guy.
It's not a bad choice. Yeah.
No, he should be. And look, Sam Rosen's voice is synonymous with the Rangers. It's going to be weird in a way. I mean, I grew up with Sam Rosen and the Rangers, and it's kind of sad to hear that he's calling it quits. It's like Howie Rose with the Mets for me. Same thing. Yeah, great announcer.
Sam Rosen been doing it 40 years. So, at the time, I would have been a little bit younger when I started listening, but Sam Rosen's the only voice I remember of the Rangers.
Same.
It's only been 40 years.
Yep.
Yeah. If you've seen him lately, he looks like he's been doing it 80 years. So
yeah, I know.
Maybe it's a good time to step away. Got a little Crypt Keeper vibe going there.
so I'll go to our guest second on this, so we don't throw him right into the fire. But Mike, pet peeves this week.
Second week in a row, I get to lead off.
You get to lead off. Yeah.
All right, that's pretty good. So I have one short one. Actually, they're both short, so I'll do them both. The first one is I noticed this watching a little preseason game. It is absolutely in the announcer's script. Every preseason game, don't tell these guys it's preseason, right? Like when they try to sell the game at the beginning, they used to do the same thing with the Pro Bowl. Oh, don't tell them this is a competitive. But yeah, that got under my skin watching that. I'm like, no, they all know it's preseason. Like there's not even any starters playing, dude. Like, don't tell these guys this game's that important. I was like, oh God, here that's like so cliche. But the first one I had this week was when we're going over rosters, and I had a couple specific examples. But when they have a rookie coming in and he's clearly going to start, like a high first round pick, and the people covering the team or on TV or whatever on ESPN, they automatically say, I'll use Caleb Williams for an example, and then this trails off into another point. But Caleb Williams, so the Bears have upgraded their quarterback position, right? You don't know that. You can't put. They have a new person there, but you don't know that that's an upgrade, right? I mean, and first of all, these guys love Justin Fields. So are you admitting that without even seeing Caleb Williams take an NFL snap, that he's better than Justin Fields? I happen to agree with that point right off the top, but is that what they're saying? It's always, they upgraded the running back room. I mean, this guy could be Ron Dane. You don't know what's going to happen. It's, so yeah, that was the other one. Because I heard that 2 or 3 times this week, talking about rookies and the old upgrade. Let's wait a little bit before we call these things upgrades.
That's a good point about, no one will admit they're wrong about Justin Fields. Here's the thing.
Nope.
They are all throwing him under the bus. Caleb Williams has immediately made the Bears better. Well, but you said Justin Fields was an MVP candidate as early as week 6 of last year.
Yeah, when I hear that, I'm like, hang on, I got receipts on this stuff here somewhere in this notebook. Yeah, it's amazing the Justin Fields thing, and I'm kind of sad to see him go because I agree with what Novak said. Like, this guy's on the way out the door. This experiment's almost over. The media's coming down on him a little bit now. There's still some hangers on who just will start saying, I'm sure, that the Steelers now aren't using him right. But yeah, I'll be a little sad to see him go. He's been a good whipping boy for us.
I'll definitely be sad because it is such great content to talk about this guy and all the people that, like Orlovsky and Woody, and I think we couldn't remember, maybe it was Ryan Clark, whoever it was, talking this guy up like last year, like he's going to be the MVP and the Bears don't know how to use him. Can we all just remind ourselves he got traded for a 6th round draft choice?
Yeah.
The Jets traded Zach Wilson for a 6th round draft choice. What does that tell you?
Yeah. And I'm sure when the Jets drafted Zach Wilson, there were people saying the Jets have upgraded their quarterback room with the addition of Zach Williams. Yeah, I mean, what's left to say about Justin Fields, man? I mean, the guy just can't play quarterback in the NFL. It's just
nope.
He'd probably be a punt returner. I could see him returning kicks.
Well, in this new kickoff thing, why not?
Yeah,
throw him out there.
Yeah. We always said he was a glorified running back, but
exactly
can't play.
So, Pierce, your inaugural chance to take a pet peeve.
All right, I'll give you this one, and since I don't know if you guys will ever let me back on the show, so I'll give my Scott and I's favorite. Actually, I know Scott. It's one of his favorites as well. One of my biggest pet peeves, and literally, I will seriously go out and scout the area just to make sure that I don't miss one, is the guys that wear jerseys. Like, I got Manning on mine, Scott's got Hampton on his, that put their own name on the jersey. I mean, my goodness, fellas, seriously, if you have to put Big Boss on the back of your jersey,
Big Boss,
and like a whatever number you're going to put on there, don't wear it. We know you're a fan. Just put the player's name on it.
So there is a picture on the web page for the Facebook page, our Facebook Three Angry Giants page. And it's got John and I standing next to a guy with Big Boss on it like this. And the guy's like, these guys love my jersey. The whole time we're tooling on him. Like, fuck, look at this fucking tool. He's got a Big Boss.
Oh my gosh. It was so bad. So now I'm on the lookout and every once in a while, Scott and I don't live in the same area anymore, but every once in a while I'll be at a game and I'll snap a picture and text it to him and be like, look at this freaking tool bag wearing a whatever, I'm the man shirt, or hey, has 69 back there. I'm in it for, something like that. My gosh.
John,
I get a pass though. The nice thing about my last name is I get a pass. I
was going to just ask if could you wear an Aaron Pierce jersey? I was going to ask.
Aaron Pierce, I can absolutely do that. So no, I'll tell you what the mistake would be there, Scott, would putting Pierce and then not having his number on the back. Right. Having a completely different number. Right?
Yeah.
So
what do you think the number one number is for guys with their own name on the back? It's either 00 or 69, right? Those are the two that I see most often.
I got it. Yeah, I got it.
Is definitely it.
Yeah, or 0 and a single digit on after that as well. Yeah.
The one time I was in a bar and it was in Staten Island or one of those places. I was there for work, and this guy had the name. It was like Bartucci or something, number 71. And I'm like, so not only does he pick an offensive lineman, and I nearly got in a fist fight with this guy because we're going Bartucci. Yeah, I remember he was like a standout in preseason, wasn't he? and the guy's getting more and more angry. He's like, no, that's my fucking name. I'm like, well, wait, you put your name on the back of your jersey? What the fuck's wrong with you? And it was me against like 3, and I was like,
almost guaranteed that is his high school number and name that he put on a Giants jersey. I would bet anything.
Oh my goodness. So there's my inaugural pet peeve, guys. I hope that was a good one because
I like that.
Great one.
Good one.
I've gone on about that for years. So Novak, pet peeves.
Yeah, so I got one quick one, which I'll get. Which is I hate this throwback uniform crap, and you guys really must hate your throwback uniform this year because it looks god fucking awful. So
I like it.
The Jets are wearing a throwback this year from 2018. That's what their throwback uniform is.
Jetsy.
What are we doing?
Scott, it's the Jets.
Only the Jets.
It's the Jets.
So,
I mean,
my real pet peeve is going to be on my team, and it's the Dick. He is my pet peeve. Because I don't know if you guys saw this. He has a book. He didn't write the book, but the book is coming out. I was on fire on Monday when I found out he had a book coming out, calling, I forget what it was, Out of the Darkness or something, the Aaron Rodgers story. That's the book. Now, he didn't write it. Ian O'Connor wrote it, but it was an unauthorized. But Rodgers met with him and sat down with him. I want to send a message to this guy. Shut up. Stop talking. Don't talk about Egypt or Epstein or Jimmy Kimmel. Don't be a vice president. Don't talk about ayahuasca. Don't do darkness retreats. Just talk about football. You know what you need to do? Call up your guy. Call up Eli Manning and say, how do I be a total bore in every interview that I am in when I'm a quarterback of a New York football team? Take a page out of his book. I'm so sick of this guy. He's just got to shut up. If you haven't noticed, Aaron, bad news, controversy, embarrassing moments stick to the Jets organization like gum and hair. Stop talking. Just go away or just play football. So he's my pet peeve.
You know what's funny about that is everyone took Eli as being like a guy that was just a stoic person who had no personality. And the dude's a funny motherfucker.
He's great after his career. He's been fantastic. He's hilarious.
He was one of the biggest pranksters in that locker room. Seriously.
Yes,
I mean, the stories that I heard, ridiculous.
My only follow-up question for Novak on that one, which Novak, another A+, they're nice, is when are you getting the book and is it going to be signed?
Here's the thing. It's so funny, Mike. I pre-ordered that fucking thing. I did, because I got to read it. I got to get it out of my system. I got to get my anger over, and I just got to move on, like he needs to do.
Did you pay the $5 extra to have him sign it, or you just get the book?
I just the book for now. But if I can look, if I ever got 2 minutes to meet this guy, I would not waste my time telling him to sign a book. I would tell him, please stop talking. Just stop.
Zip it.
He's like Michael Scott. I really do think in The Office. I think that's. Do you remember when Michael said he was going to stop being a comedian and Jim was toying with him, going, so that means that's what she said? And he said, yes, I won't do it anymore. And he said, that is really hard. And then he couldn't say. He goes, that's what she said. That's like Rodgers. The media just messes with this guy to get him to talk.
I do miss those. I do miss the commercials though. With the the very large
discount double check.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Rodgers. I do kind of miss those just a little bit.
I think Mahomes and Kelsey are taking that spot over.
Yeah.
No one ever talks about how Jake from Steak Farm just changed. He was a dude. He's one guy.
That's right. He was a guy in khakis.
Yeah, khakis. What do you want? Khakis? Sure.
Who are you talking to? Jake from Steak
That
Farm.
guy.
That's one of the best. Yeah, Mike. I was just gonna say that's one of the best commercials ever.
Yeah, it's great.
The husband on the phone, because I could picture myself doing.
Yeah.
It's Jake.
Jake from State Farm.
Well, he's the guy, so
He was. I'll give the wife this much in that commercial. He was acting a little creepy about it. Remember? He's like,
Yeah.
He
He's
was
breathing heavy. Oh yeah, you
It's
can
like,
do that. Yeah.
You do that to me? Yeah.
and he's in his jammies, right? He's in his pajamas.
Yeah.
That's
Give
what
me
he's
that
doing.
Yeah.
So I got two pet peeves. We just got done watching the Olympics, and a lot of good stories in the Olympics. But what bothers me most about this generation, I don't know if it's of athletes or just this generation as a whole, there was a lot of backlash there for a few things. We had a flap about the bronze medal in gymnastics. We had the break dancer from Australia who was just god awful and basically had the sport banned from the next Olympics. And then you also had the female/male boxer that there was controversy on. And there was a lot of backlash coming for all three of these. And I heard a few interviews talking about now how we can't criticize these kind of things because the mental health of the athletes in question is now put in jeopardy. You're an athlete. You have to have both physical and mental strength to be an athlete. And I don't get this whole idea. If you criticize someone and they have fragile mental health, it's the public's problem. As part of being angry fans and fandom as a whole, we come down on players every once in a while. We come down on other guys. We celebrate players. And you can't just call out the times when we're being critical and saying, well, you know what? We have to take into account their mental health and all of this. No, you either step into the arena to perform, and if you don't perform, you're going to expect a lot of that backlash. I don't get where this whole bullshit comes where, we have to respect mental health. Mental health is something I do understand it can be an issue, but you have a choice on whether to participate or not.
Yeah, no one's making them be an athlete, right? I mean, that's what you sign up for. That's part of the gig. I mean, it's the same way with any sport. So I agree with you.
I was actually sort of pleased about the Australian breakdancer because it gave me hope that I could have been a breakdancer.
The difference,
By the way,
is,
there
again,
is.
this is. Go ahead, John.
No, I'm sorry, Mike. After you.
Yeah, I was just going to say that of course, this goes back to an old pet peeve that I had, which is, so how do we even know about these people's fragile mental states? It's the same media that's telling us to back off is the one that's giving us the information and then getting mad at us for the way we react to it. It's not, Scott Cost in Fort Mill, South Carolina, isn't getting in some athlete's face and going, toughen up, Buttercup. It's not.
Well,
It's
I mean,
well, sort of, yeah. But yeah, it's just, don't, if you don't want us to talk about it, don't tell us about it. There's no way we could know.
yeah, I think, obviously the training that they go through from a physical standpoint is unbelievable, right? I mean, not everyone can do it.
Except for the break dancer.
Right, except that. And I still can't believe that's a sport in the freaking Olympics. I just felt, oh, good God. I mean, never mind badminton or anything else like that. I mean, that's fine, I guess. It's a sport. But I gotta think that they should be mentally prepared to go into something like this and be ready to face what is going to be happening to them. They have mental coaches, I think, nowadays, and just to get you mentally prepared of what's doing. But for the average fan to really understand what's going on in their world, in their head, I don't think the media should be really harping on that piece, right? At all.
I agree. Yep.
We're there to watch them as athletes competing in a competition, right?
Yep.
Regardless of how they do, gold, silver, bronze, no medal at all, they're there, right? And they're put on display for us, for entertainment wise, and for their own personal glory too, right? So, but I just don't. I'm with Scott. I really kind of diving into the mental piece of it. I don't think there should be a place for it, quite honestly.
No, we should know about it at all. And, I agree with what you two both said too. And that's, being a world-class athlete, the mental part of it's a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
That is, that's probably half the game at that level. But it's not something we should necessarily be talking about.
Yeah. So my second pet peeve is a short one, but you keep seeing these commercials about full body deodorant. Why do we have to have this? It's like, you always had deodorant. We know that there's parts of your body that smell, and we've taken care of that for years. We've never had to be told that there's other areas of our body that smells publicly because we've always just taken care of it. It's not been a need to have full body deodorant.
I don't need to see a large Midwestern lady talk about underboob on a commercial. All right, I'm sorry. I just don't need to see that.
Underboob.
I mean,
I did not have underboob on my bingo card for words tonight.
I mean, I'm sorry.
And the way they go about these commercials and word it, it's not creepy, but it's like awkward. It's like, and for those areas like pits and nether regions, and it's like, what the hell, man? Just
do we really need a full body? Isn't that what a shower's for? I'm not. Some areas do need a little extra help when you get out of the shower, but not a whole body. I mean.
This is a bar.
I've noticed this is
some soap. Yeah.
For some reason, there's like 4 or 5 brands that have been advertising quite a bit.
Maybe. Well, don't talk them down. Next thing you know, they'll be our sponsor. So
hey,
you never know.
We'll take anybody.
I'll be on here talking about how awesome full body deodorant is.
Speaking of our sponsors, don't miss. We got 2 weeks from now, the 28th of August, we will be at the Carolina Beer Temple in Matthews, North Carolina, doing a live show. So, John, I don't know if you ever went to the Carolina Beer Temple, but it's right there on Main Street.
Nice. Awesome. I have not. I may have to check that out.
And lest anyone think this is not going to be a hour and a half long podcast, we are planning some good, fun activities, whether that be drinking games, whether that be trivia contests, all kinds of stuff. So we'll do predictions. We'll do all stuff to get people ready for the season. And I think it's going to be a fun time.
And if you have a fragile mental state that we were just talking about, and you're a Panther fan, you may not want to attend.
That might not be the best form. Scott, what's the date and time?
So it is. It's August 28th at. Is it 7 p.m. or 8 p.m.?
7 p.m. It
7
starts,
p.m.
but that doesn't mean we'll start the podcast at 7. We might just sort of gather at 7, and once we, have our hundreds and thousands of people show up, then we'll figure out what's a good time to start. But yeah,
we're gonna have to talk to the fire department about the fire code because I think we're gonna blow that place out. So
that's right.
Second question: do I have to shave?
No, you don't have to shave.
No.
Well, I guess my picture on the caricature has a beard, right? So
yeah. So.
All right, sort of a beard.
By the way, your caricature out of all of ours is the best.
Is the best, no doubt.
That's, you guys think that may be a compliment or that I'm happy about it, but that just means I look like a caricature. Don't you see? Don't you see how I take that? I have a very fragile mental state about that.
All right, so the public wants to know, right? When is the 3 Angry Giants fans and Jet fan? When's the T-shirts coming out, Scott? I asked you that. I said, when are the T-shirts?
We do have some merch. We have coffee cups that we have. I don't know when the rest of the merch is going to drop, or we'll probably have to make that another big announcement at some point.
We do have merch available. If anyone's listening and would like merch, we'll do a T-shirt, $100. Just let us know, and we'll get one sent over to you.
High quality.
Yep.
Pierce, spread the word about the podcast. We might we might be able to get merch going.
Absolutely, I certainly will. I really appreciate you having me, guys. This was a ton of fun. Seriously.
So we're gonna have another guest next week. Even a Cowboy fan. So last time we did an interdivision fan, it didn't go so well, but this one might go better.
You never know, man. I parlayed a guest spot into a recurring role, even to Lowe's dismay. I am still on.
Yeah. So you're saying in 2025, Pierce might be the 5th.
4 Angry Giant fans and a Jet fan. I mean, why not outnumber me more? What does it matter?
Go.
Hey.
So
whatever I can provide for you guys.
We did have a few questions this week. So my friend Ogre, he is a Jet fan, and he asked if there was a Scoville scale for football douchebags. Would Rodgers be a ghost pepper, a Carolina Reaper, or a Pepper X? And before you answer, I just want to point it out that both the Carolina Reaper and the Pepper X were developed right here in Fort Mill, South Carolina.
That's right.
Many people don't know that. They literally were developed and grown in Fort Mill, South Carolina, and they become 2 of the hottest peppers in the world.
Huh.
Pepper plug.
It is a pepper plug.
As the resident Jet fan, I would say whichever one makes you nauseous and vomit the fastest would be the one that for Rodgers.
That would be Pepper X, because I think Pepper X is like a
medical grade. And he's a Pepper X.
So I think to me, Rodgers is more of he's a Carolina Reaper. Like you ingest him and it burns after a few seconds, and then you're like, holy shit, why the fuck is this guy around?
Yeah, that's fair. I can see that. I don't know much about these peppers, to be honest. I got to be honest with you.
I'm going to level with you. I don't know much about the peppers.
So we also have the champ that had sent like a 7-part question in a couple of years ago, and then never really followed up on that. So Matty Byer has asked a couple of questions here, and he asked our confidence level in the offensive line. Is it fixed? We talked about it a little bit when we were talking about the preseason game. I think the depth is there. I don't think we'll know if it's fixed until we know what's going on with Evan Neal versus like, is he going to be at tackle or not? And then we'll have to see it once the game starts. Because last year, the preseason offensive line had some issues, but then week 1 we lost 40-0 to the Cowboys. So it's one of those things where, is it fixed until we see it when the real bullets are fired? I happen to think that we had a plan this year. We brought in Carmen Basillo too from the Raiders. So he seems to be good in terms of coaching these guys up. So is it fixed? I don't know. We'll find out, but it looks a hell of a lot better than it has in the last few years. Because this is like year 10 of a 10 rebuild for the offensive line.
Yeah, I would say on a Scoville pepper scale, my faith in the offensive line is like honey hot to garlic parm. No, I don't know.
Isn't that a wing scale?
Well,
Wing sauce?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. All right. I have my own scale that I use. I'm much more comfortable in wing sauce. Do I think it's better? Yeah. Do I think it's fixed? We'll have to see. But my confidence level is pretty high that we'll be competitive on the offensive line instead of just 5 turnstiles. There's a couple of over the last few years. There's a couple of games that we lost strictly because of the offensive line. I don't see that happening with this group, with the veterans in there, and of course Thomas, and Evan Neal, who maybe he's gotten better, maybe he hasn't, but Illuminor's right there, and he's a solid right tackle. So my confidence level that it's gotten better is good. That it's fixed, I'm gonna wait to call that.
I'd like to see what Dave's really has in mind as his best front 5, right?
Yeah.
Because right now we're doing a lot of mixing and matching, trying to find the right combination. And obviously there's injuries involved too. But for me, it's to get a unit and be able to stick with it for a period of time and show success from that. So I believe the depth is way better than it was, just based on, I mean, my goodness, guys, the guys, I mean, the linemen that we signed this year, they were proven commodities. I mean, they played in the NFL and they did a pretty damn good job at their positions, which is why they were sought after in free agency, which is why on Hard Knocks you saw Shane and company really kind of saying, hey, these are the guys that we want, and they targeted those guys, and you heard how much they were going to cost. So there's definitely, I think, an upgrade there. I just want to see, okay, these are my 5 guys. Then let's go to war with those guys.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great way to put it, John. I want to get done with this era of football, and no matter how it ends up with more Super Bowl championships or whatever, but I want to be able to look back and have someone say, hey, do you remember the offensive line from the early 2020s? And, be able to go, yeah, Ard, Elliott, Nelson, Oates, and Riesenberg. How come I can do that about a 1988, football team? And I couldn't even name 3 names right now from the past 4 seasons who's been a guy who's stuck in there other than Thomas, and been one of those types of guys. So, yeah, just some consistency, some ability for them to gel together. Like I said, I think we'll compete on the offensive line this year, which I don't think we've done for a handful of years.
At least since the Suburbanites, right, Scott?
Suburbanites.
Yep. In the 80s.
So they were talking on the Giants top 100 to Chris Snee, and for both Super Bowl teams that Chris Snee was on, he was a 2nd round pick. So he was the highest pick out of any of the draft or out of any of the other people that were on the line in either of those years. And I had actually forgotten the name that came up in the second Super Bowl that the Giants won against the Patriots was David Boss. I had forgotten that he was on that team. He was a center, he played decent that year. Then the following year he got hurt. And then after that he was gone. But for Snee to be he was a 2nd rounder, and back in the first Super Bowl, Kareem McKenzie was probably a better offensive line, but he was drafted by the Jets, and I think he was drafted in the 3rd round. Deal was a 5th rounder. You had a couple of guys there. O'Hara was an undrafted guy. So you had undrafted players, and Snee was the highest draft pick there. And so when you put resources in like the Giants have over the last 10 years, and they have a lot of 1st rounders there that just haven't panned out. And to me, it's not so much the pedigree you have coming out of college. It's more the cohesion you have working with the rest of the group. So I'm hoping that Carmen Basila can bring that to the Giants. The other question the champ asked is our take on Dable's leadership style, and did the Wink situation sort of lower it? For me, when I look what happened with Wink, I think Wink is the problem. Wink's been a problem at a lot of different places he's been at. And I'm a little bit partial to Dable because I saw things a year before when they were in Jacksonville. So John was at that game too. And Dable and Shane going off the field in Jacksonville, by the way, to a sea of blue, giant blue, not Panther blue or Jacksonville blue, Duval. They were shaking their fist at the crowd, giving the high five, getting the point out to us. We stayed in our seats till the end of that game. We enjoyed that victory, and Dable to me showed just a lot of relation to the fans. Like he could relate to the fans, he relates to the players. He was going to the Rangers games when they were in the playoffs that year. It was one of those things where I felt like Dable's one of those guys you can relate to. And I don't think the Wink thing really is a negative against him. Wink seems to me to be a guy who wanted to backstab Dable than anything else. And we'll see this year. We'll see how it plays out. Dable's got a temper, but I think Dable has been the best coach we've had in a long time.
Yeah, Wink always seemed like a rental to me. I mean, I was great. I was very happy to get him. Because I thought one of the big problems with our past defensive coordinators was exactly what Wink does when he, blitzing and that kind of stuff and disguising coverages and all that. But I think we saw the real Wink in like the last 5 weeks of the season when he knew he was on the way out, and he was just handled that whole thing so immaturely. I think that gave everyone a sort of an insight into what type of guy he is. Like Scott said, he's not left anywhere on super good terms. So I don't know why suddenly it's Dable's fault when something like this happens. But no, I frankly, I'd forgotten about him already. I'm so moved on from that I can't even remember why I was upset when I heard he was leaving.
I think the ego in itself for Wink, and I think he was running his own show, his own inner show, and trying to build up his own resume, because I think he wants to become a head coach again, right? He said I'd be happy being the Giants defensive coordinator for the next few years, all that, but deep inside, I think he was trying to run his own little game in there. And like Mike said, the last 5 games just absolutely pissed me off. It looks like he just mailed it in. Seriously.
Yeah.
And then we have one last question. It was more of an anonymous person that reached out, but it said that it was their first time listening to the podcast, which we're always happy to have new listeners. And they were trying to say, they asked if we could give a synopsis of what our podcast brings versus other podcasts. And, I think I've touched upon this in the past. I mean, we're a mixture between humor and football. We don't take ourselves too seriously on the football side. If you really want the X's and O's of football and you want the all 22 view breakdown and things like that, we're not the place to go. And for me, I find that stuff kind of dry and boring. We talk about the NFL as a whole. We talk a lot about Giants and Jets, but we also talk about just what an average fan thinks about the NFL these days and how the NFL itself has a lot of work to do to regain some of their core fans that they had in the past. And, for me, I look at us as being 5 guys in this case, with John being included here. We're just average fans talking about the team, talking about the NFL, and sort of sitting around like we're having a few drinks and just talking about football and talking about pet peeves. Like some of our segments that are the best received from the outsider are pet peeve segments that have nothing to do about football. So it's just engaging people and wanting to grow our audience.
Yeah, I can't really add much to that. You kind of nailed it there, Scott. I mean, it's sort of what a regular NFL broadcast is to the Manning cast is what other podcasts are to us. I think it's, if I said that right and that made sense, but it's, like Scott said, we don't take ourselves very seriously. I don't think on many of these other Giants related podcasts, you're going to hear in-depth talk about officials and announcers as much as we do here. So, it's more, it's like cracking a beer and hanging out with your buddies and just shooting the shit while the game's on in the background. That's what it feels like to me, and that's why I've always enjoyed doing it so much. And from like Scott said, from other ones I've listened to, I listen like 10 minutes in, I'm like, well, that's not funny at all. Just turn it off. Maybe I'm looking for something a little different, but yeah, I think you nailed it, Scott.
Yeah, I don't know.
Novak, from a Jets fan standpoint, I mean,
well, look, I've been in the shadow of the Giants my whole freaking life, so it makes it makes total sense that I'm in a podcast where the headliner are the three angry Giants fans. I mean, I played in Giant Stadium my whole life, so whatever. So no, but look, I think what makes it special, in my opinion, is very much what you guys said. I also think if you're really looking at what sets us apart, in my opinion, is I think we think about things that are going to happen or people should be talking about, especially in the media, that they don't. And that's what I love about it the most. Whether it's Justin Fields, whether it's officiating, whether it's dumb new rules, whether it's the NFL doing stupid things that just annoy us, saying it in a way that is, I think we try to be funny with it, but at the same time, we're clearly old guys that are just annoyed by what the sport and franchises that we love have become. And I think that's what makes it great, in my opinion, because it has, look, we still love the sport. We're still going to watch the Jets and the Giants, and we're still going to love football, but it's not what it used to be. It's just not. And so I love that aspect of it personally.
You know what I love too is that we all went out for that Giant and Jet game last year. And we said before, this is going to be one of the shittiest games that it's ever been played in the NFL.
Yep.
And it came true.
Absolutely.
And we knew it going in, and we watched it intently. And when the Giants looked like they were going to win, Mike, Chris, and I were jumping in each other's arms, celebrating.
I was throwing stuff. I mean, it was awful.
And yet, we saw the agony of defeat. But in a time when we knew things were going to be shitty, we still were engrossed in that game.
Yeah. I mean, think about, too, the funny thing was we were ripping on sideline reporters like 2 weeks before it came out that the one sideline reporter admitted that she makes stuff up. She makes stuff up when she talks to these coaches, right? I mean, stuff like that seems to happen all the time. So give a listen and you'll see what's going to happen in 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, we're not afraid to go out on a limb with a prediction. I know that. We'll do that.
No.
So, John, very happy to have you on board. Any comments you want on that part, like on what the podcast is versus reality?
Yeah, I think Mike really hit it. I think it's a bunch of good friends just sitting in a bar, having beer, watching the game, and commenting on the game. Right? It's that type of thing. Doesn't go really much in depth. Yes, we know the players. Yes, we know what's going on within the organizations, but it's not the detail or the granular explanation of what is going on, right? This is a fan's point of view, in my opinion. This is from listening to the podcast, seeing the podcast. It's a fan's point of view, and we're all fans, right? Even Novak. I mean, for crying out loud. So for me, it's just I used to do this with my dad. I still do, but my dad just getting ready to turn 93 in January.
Holy cow.
Wow.
And so we still talk every single week about the Giants game. Every Giant game that comes up, after the game, before the game, and after the game. And we just talk and we bitch and we moan. And, this is the good part. We tell jokes and all that stuff. I just liken it to a very easy way to follow the team that's your favorite. Right. And have the ability to talk about it ad nauseum, even to a Jets fan. So, right. I mean, it's all good. I just think it's a great venue to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. We're glad to have you this week.
Great job, John.
I'll say this too. I mean, just as you said that too, it's one of those things too, when as football fans, like, the way the Giants have been since, let's say, 2015 or so, breaking down games ad nauseum and talking about these brutal losses, it would be no fun for me. Like to sit there and say, the offensive line didn't do this and the defensive line didn't do this. fuck me. I mean, you might as well just put a stake up my ass, because that is got to be the worst thing you could possibly regurgitate week after week, and just talk about the different ways the Giants have lost incredibly sadly. You know, it just doesn't register to me.
I agree.
Well said.
So we are the Three Angry Giant Fans. Follow us on Twitter at angry_3. John Pierce, we appreciate you being on. Next week, we're going to have another guest on. Cardone should be back, I think. You never know on the preseason. But we'll talk about the breakdown of the preseason games this week coming up with the Giants Texans and the Jets Panthers, and another meaningless game that's going to be played between the two.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No,
I got one more thing. One thing I want to add. I should have thought about this with the pepper question. A perfect pepper for Aaron Rodgers is a Willie pepper. And if anyone wants to Google that, you'll know exactly why. I'll leave it there.
I have no idea what a Willie pepper is.
Google it. Check a picture of it. Check out a picture of it, and you'll know exactly why I said it.
I'll bet it looks like something. There's breaking news right now, actually, guys. The Giants just traded Jordan Phillips to the Cowboys and a 7th rounder for a 6th rounder.
Really?
Yeah.
Traded with the Cowboys?
Yeah.
Didn't they just sign Phillips like this afternoon?
I don't know. This says, let's see. According to Ian Rappaport, the Giants will receive a 2026 6th-round pick.
2026?
Yeah, well, the Cowboys receive a 2026 7th-round pick along with Jordan.
Huh.
Phillips. Yeah.
So we don't even get a draft pick till 2 years from now?
Yeah. It's an odd trade. I don't know what
Giants think very highly of him, trading him in the division to a rival for a 6th-round draft choice.
We are playing 4D chess, my friends.
I don't think he's ever been on the field.
I thought they'd at least throw in CD Lamb. I mean,
my goodness, fantasy football trade.
Yeah.
You watch next week. Peacock will act like that's the best trade ever. For the Cowboys.
I guarantee you, he's going to talk about that trade. We'll talk about that next week. Yeah. And then the last thing I had was a correction. Pawtucket is absolutely in Rhode Island.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
It's like the end of PTI. They have the corrections at the end.
Well, that's the home of the Paw Sox, the AAA affiliate of the
the Pawtucket Red Sox.
Yeah. They're firmly ensconced in Rhode Island.
All right. Love to end the pot on corrections and the rest of the discussion. So, guys, we'll see everyone next week. Thank you for tuning in. And remember, live show 2 weeks from now. Carolina Beer Temple in Matthews, North Carolina.
Check it out.
See you.